We are cooking with little man again, and today we're preparing chicken and dumplings. We're actually going to make this meal tomorrow night, but we're preparing our broth a day early so that it'll have time to separate in the refrigerator. Peppercorn. Again, our goal is to try and avoid any canned foods, so we're going to make our own broth for our chicken and dumplings, and we're cooking the chicken anyways. So here's an easy way to do that. We've got our whole chicken that we've cleaned and taken all the guts out of it that comes with that. We have 2 medium chopped onions. We have 2 stalks of celery, leaving the leaves on, and we have 2 large carrots. For our seasonings, we have some crushed thyme, some crushed rosemary, some bay leaves, some whole peppercorns, and salt. We prepared our chicken by taking the neck out and the liver and all the guts that come with that. Just make sure you double check inside all the cavities to make sure there's no drippers. And we have our pot and we have 2 quarts of water. So we're going to get started here. Are you ready to get started? And little man has washed his hands before we got going, and we're going to take this chicken and we're going to set it in the pot. You want to take that chicken and set it in the pot for me? Use both hands. There you go. There you go. Alright. And we're going to take a break and wash our hands again, and we'll be back. So we're back and we've washed our hands, and we're just going to move this out of the way. When dealing with poultry, you want to wash your hands every time you touch it when it's raw. Alright, so we've got our pot here. We've got 2 quarts of water, and little man's going to add that to our pot. And while he's doing that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. There we go. You'll be a professional cook before long. Alright. Okay, and we're going to add our spices. We're not going to cover it yet. We're going to put about 10 peppercorns in there. These are whole peppercorns. Just drop them right in the pot. And 2 bay leaves. There's 1. Put that in there for me. And then there's 2. And we'll add a teaspoon of crushed rosemary. And we're going to add a teaspoon of thyme leaves. Good job. So then all we have to do is add our fresh vegetables. And little man is just going to start putting our vegetables in the pot. You want to put all that stuff in here? Here, I'll help you out. We have a little splashback on that. Good job. Give me 5. Yeah. 5. Now that we've got everything in the pot, we're just going to place this on the stove. We're going to bring it to a boil and then reduce our heat and let that simmer for 2 hours. And that's just enough time for us to go to the park, isn't that right? Yeah. You want to go to the park? Yeah. Alright, we'll be back later. So our 2 hours are up, and we're just going to pull this chicken out.
Chicken.
That's right, chicken.
Chicken.
And it's gonna fall apart. You want to get the bulk of that out. And now that we have all the meat out of the broth, we're just gonna take it off the heat. And we're going to let both of those cool for about 30 minutes. Okay. After our 2 hours were up, we set our broth to the side and we let it cool for a while. We pulled our chicken out, and now we're going to separate our broth from all the contents inside of it. And little man's going to help me out.
Yeah.
You want me to stop talking?
Yeah.
So while everything was cooking, we went to the park. And When we got back, we got a bath. We cooked tonight's dinner, which was a chicken stir fry lo mein. We pulled our chicken out of the broth and we let everything cool down to room temperature. And little man is going to help me out with this. So we're going to separate the contents from the broth. And little man is going to hold my strainer for me. You're going to hold that real tight. Hold that real tight. Ready? Hold it tight. And we're just straining all the vegetables out of that broth. And once you have all your broth in your bowl, you're going to let that cool a little bit longer. We're going to put that in the refrigerator. You want that to separate in the refrigerator. What's going to happen is the fat is going to raise to the top. And tomorrow we're going to skim that fat off and it'll be ready to make our chicken and dumplings. Now we have our broth. We're going to set that to the side and let that cool for a little bit. And you're just going to discard the rest of these vegetables. Now that we have our broth ready to go for tomorrow, we're going to prepare our chicken. And this is just a matter of pulling the chicken off the bone and discarding the bones. And little man's going to help me out with that. Yeah, so this is where we're going to put the good chicken, and this is where we're going to put the bones, okay? And we've washed our hands real good, as always, right? So we're going to pull the chicken apart. You want to help me pull the chicken apart?
Yeah.
And how about this? Daddy will pull off all the chicken, and you put the bones in here, okay?
But he's doing.
There you go. Here's a bone. That's good. You're pulling out all the bones. That's very good, buddy. And you can discard that skin too. We don't like that skin either, do we? And once we have all our meat separated from our bones, we're just gonna put that. We're just gonna put that in a plastic bag and set it in the refrigerator, and it'll be ready to go. Oh, you in charge now? You in charge now? Anyways, we'll put this in the refrigerator and it'll be ready to go for tomorrow. That's all for today's prep work, and we're going to come back tomorrow and make chicken and dumplings. We pulled our broth out of the refrigerator, and as you can see, it is separated quite nicely. And what you want to do is you just want to skim all this fat off the top. And we're just going to strain this broth one more time, and it'll be ready for our chicken and dumplings, and we're going to bring in little man. Getting started with this next step, we're going to talk about our ingredients. What we have here is 3/4 cup flour, 1/2 cup peas, 2 chopped carrots, 1 chopped onion, 2 stalks of chopped celery, and our chicken that we prepared yesterday. So little man is sampling some of the product, and we're going to get this ready to go. A lot of this will be done stovetop, and little man will have to watch from a safe distance, but he's going to help me get it ready to go. And to do that, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil to our pot. Would you like to help me out?
Yeah.
Hold that, and I'll add 1 and 2. And for now, we're just going to add our fresh vegetables to the pot. Would you like to put all that in there? There you go. And we'll get all our vegetables in the pot. Yeah, there we go. Get all that in. And we're going to save the peas until the end, and we'll also add our meat later and our flour. We're also going to add a teaspoon of salt. And we're going to grind in some pepper. Add a teaspoon of that too. And once again, we're we're going to place our pot on the stove, and we're going to turn the stove on to about medium high, and we're going to let those veggies cook down about 4 to 5 minutes. We don't want to brown them, we just want to cook them down a little bit. And we'll just stir those vegetables every minute or so. It's been about 4 minutes and our veggies have cooked down pretty well. Again, we don't want to cook them down too much. We want them to be al dente, have a little bite to them. We don't want them to be mushy. And once we're at this stage, we're just going to add our flour. Again, that's 3/4 of a cup. And we're just going to stir that in. We'll stir that in for about another minute. Once you add that flour, you want to keep it moving. You don't want that flour burning. Then we'll go ahead and add a little bit of our chicken broth. Keep it from sticking to the bottom. And that looks good. We'll just add the rest of our broth. And we'll add our chicken. We'll stir all that in and we'll let that simmer while we prepare our dumplings. While that simmers, we're going to talk about dumplings. There are many different types of dumplings. Here in the South, we'll see a lot of the flat strip type dumplings. It's almost like a noodle. We like a fluffier dumpling, which is almost like a biscuit that you place into the liquid. Again, like I said, it's just a matter of preference. Dumpling is kind of a broad term. The Chinese have another type of dumpling, which we call a wonton, and in Central Europe, they call dumplings gandhi or matzo balls. And like I said, there's a lot of different types of dumplings. These are just the kind that we prefer, and little man is already preparing them. What we have here is just a teaspoon of parsley, some salt, and some pepper. And we're just putting that into the dumplings to give it a little flavor. Little man's adding that in. There you go. And we also have 2 tablespoons of melted butter, which we're going to add in there. And then we have about 3/4 cup of milk. Little man's going to add that in. And what we started out with was 2 cups of flour and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And little man is going to stir all this together. And you want to be careful with dumplings because you don't want to over stir it because your dumplings will be too dense. So really you just want to stir it until it's all mixed together. And that looks pretty good right there. We're just going to set that to the side. And in a few minutes we'll add that to our chicken. Once we've brought our stew back up to a simmer, we're going to add our dumplings 1 spoon at a time. And we're going to make it about a golf ball size for each one. And we're just going to drop those in. We still haven't added our peas. We're going to save those to the very end. The peas have a tendency to overcook or get mushy. So we like to add those right before the end. Half that. Now that we have our dumplings in there, we're going to cover them up and we're going to let them steam for about 15 minutes. You don't want to open them up and check on them during this time period because the steam is what cooks them. You're not really boiling the dumplings, you're trying to steam them, and that's what makes them really fluffy. We're going to cook these for about 15 to 20 minutes, and we'll come back in 15 minutes to check on them. It's been about 15 minutes, and we're going to check on our dumplings. Remember, you want to resist the urge to remove the lid while the dumplings are cooking. It's kind of like cooking rice. You want to let the steam do the work. We're going to open this up, and our dumplings are looking good. They're fluffy. And again, we're going to go ahead and add our peas. We're adding these right at the end because we don't want them to overcook. It really doesn't take long for those peas to cook, so we're just going to let those sit for about a minute, and we'll be ready to eat. Our chicken and dumplings are ready to eat, and this boy is hungry, so we're going to serve it up.
Mommy.
Yeah.
Mommy. Daddy. Daddy.
This one's Daddy's, that's right. And we're going to enjoy another great meal with Cooking with Little Man. We'll see you next time. Give me a 5.